Before the dawn chorus of songbirds could claim the forest canopy, a hush settled over Queen Maribel's hive. A grand, multi-tiered fortress of golden comb tucked deep within the hollow of an age-old oak. Each wax cell gleamed with dew-kissed nectar, and the steady hum of thousands of worker bees echoed like a living heartbeat. Nurse bees tended to tender larvae with precise trophallaxis. Forager scouts returned with pollen-laden baskets, and soldier bees patrolled the entrance, wings vigilant against the slightest vibration in the bark. At the heart of this bustling metropolis sat Queen Maribel herself, her iridescent thorax crowned by two slender antennae quivering in the morning light. She surveyed her realm from the central brood chamber, a domed cathedral of wax, where the clatter of tiny mandibles sculpting new combs never ceased. Around her, royal attendants pressed their antennae to her flanks, seeking guidance for the day's tasks. Forage schedules, defensive patrols, and the endless choreography of colony life. But on this morning, an undercurrent of alarm pheromone tinged the hive air. A faint, acrid note that spoke of violation. Nurse bees faltered in their labors, pausing mid-tendril with quivering wings. Forager scouts hesitated at the hive entrance, their pollen baskets suddenly heavy and chilled. From the outer comb dripped a thin smear of dark fluid, resin tainted by wasp venom, an unmistakable signature of intruders. Queen Maribel's compound eyes narrowed as her mind raced through possibilities. Wasps, those ruthless marauders, had been on the periphery of her territory for weeks, probing weaker hives and snatching larvae to feed their own brood. But they had never dared strike so boldly at Maribel's domain, whose walls were fortified with layers of propolis and guarded by the fiercest soldier bees. A sudden volley of soft, urgent clicks echoed from the hive's rear chambers, the signal of Scout Electo, returning from her nightly surveillance. Maribel rose on her slender legs, antennae flicking for clarity. Electo's wings, usually sleek and bright, were smudged with pulp from the orchard trees where she foraged. With a trembling buzz-click-buzz, the scout detailed the horror. Under cover of darkness, a covert band of wasps had breached the outer comb, their mandibles slicing open brood cells, their barbed stings paralyzing nurse bees, and their jagged tarsi dragging precious larvae away. Queen Maribel felt the hive's life force tremble like on a razor-sharp wind. Every bee in her realm was kin, each larva a promise of the colony's future. This was not a mere raid for food. It was a deliberate act of war, aimed at crippling her legacy. Anger flared through her with the intensity of a thunderclap, her stinger swelling with potent venom reserved for threats to her people. With regality honed by countless seasons, Maribel sounded the alarm, a triple beat of low buzzes that reverberated through comb and corridor alike. Soldier bees snapped erect on their 6 legs, wings poised like drawn sabers. The Queen's elite guard, veteran foragers whose bodies were still steeped in royal jelly, rallied at her call, their black stripes vivid against ambers of wax. Even the normally placid worker bees stiffened in an immediate chorus of readiness, antennae scanning every crevice for signs of the invaders. Maribel swept through the hive in stately arcs, her presence suffusing every chamber with calm authority. She pressed her antennae to the brood comb, tasting the lingering honeydew and the faint tang of wasp musk. With precise commands dispatched through tactile signals and pheromone trails, she orchestrated a twofold response. First, to secure and seal the remaining brood cells with fresh propolis. Second, to assemble a midnight strike force capable of tracking the wasps back to their lair and rescuing what she could of her stolen young. As the hive sprang into orchestrated motion, propolis pressed between mandibles, combat squads arrayed at the entrance, Queen Maribel retreated to the safety of the royal chamber. There, surrounded by her loyal attendants, she allowed herself a moment to steel her resolve. The air hummed with both fear and fierce determination. Somewhere beyond these waxen walls, the wasp nest lay hidden, an affront to the very harmony Maribel had sworn to uphold. Night would bring darkness, but Maribel's mind burned with purpose. She would send her most cunning agent deep into enemy territory, a bee whose wings were as silent as shadows and whose sting was swift as lightning. This secret operative, the Queen's Shadow, would infiltrate the wasp stronghold, find the stolen brood, and deliver justice to those who dared defile the heart of her hive. And so, As the first pale blush of sunrise seeped through the oak's knot-holed walls, Queen Maribel prepared to unleash her hidden champion and turn betrayal's buzz into a symphony of retribution. That night, when the forest lay draped in shimmering moonlight, Queen Maribel summoned her most trusted lieutenants to the heart of the Hive's upper gallery. A shaft of pale lunar glow slanted through a narrow knothole in the oak, illuminating the polished wax floor and casting the queen's long shadow across the trembling honeycombs. Around her clustered 6 veteran forager bees, each body still flecked with traces of royal jelly, their wings strong from countless dawn patrols, and an additional quartet of stalwart soldier bees, mandibles honed and stingers primed. Maribel's antennae quivered as she emitted a low, rhythmic buzz, the ancient signal of a covert mission. Instantly, every recruit stilled, turning their striped bodies toward her. With a measured click and a delicate brushing of mandibles, she conveyed the mission's gravity. The stolen brood must be reclaimed, the wasp invaders punished, and the Hive's honor restored. No ordinary guard detail could accomplish this. Only the Sting Ops unit, her secret agent corps, possessed the stealth, speed, and venom potency to succeed. Her first selection was Brisa, the colony's bee acrobat, whose aerial maneuvers rivaled the most restless wasp scouts. Brisa dipped her abdomen in the queen's pheromone-laden contact, a sacred anointment that heightened her sensory acuity and cloaked her in the Hive's protective signature. Next came Thorn, whose barbed stinger carried a paralytic venom so potent that a single well-placed jab could silence the fiercest hornet. Each chosen agent received a single drop of royal jelly rubbed onto her thorax and antennae, enough to reinforce loyalty and sharpen reflexes, but not so much as to draw undue attention during the mission. As Maribel moved among them, the moonlight caught the sheen of propolis-sealed armor plates along their abdomens. With graceful precision, she guided them to the Hive's inner propolis stores, where the secret agent team each coated their tarsi in a sticky resin compound. This organic adhesive, infused with heralding pheromones, would allow them to leave no trail of foreign scent and to scale the smooth bark outside the Hive with impunity. Outside, through the openings in the comb, the recruits could already hear the distant hum of the wasp nest, a darker, harsher echo compared to the gentle harmony of bee society. In a final gesture, Queen Maribel released a silken thread of royal court jelly across the wax gallery floor. Each agent dipped a foreleg into the substance, smearing it onto her stinger shaft. Now their barbed stings would carry a dual payload: bee-specific venom to incapacitate and a coated pheromone that would sow confusion among returning forager wasps, causing rival scouts to misinterpret the Hive's scent signals. Maribel's mandibles clicked in endorsement. "Fly swiftly and return safely," she intoned in the Hive's secret tongue. With a synchronized flick of their wings, the 8 Sting Ops agents mounted the gallery's comb ridges, each disappearing into a slender exit tunnel carved through the oak's living core. As the tunnel closed behind them with a honey-coated flap, Queen Maribel listened to the fading rhythm of her champion's wing beats. She sensed, even in the Hive's hush, the ripple of their departure, an invisible line drawn between her realm and the enemy's stronghold. The Sting Ops were en route, sworn to rescue the stolen brood and deliver retribution. And long before the sun's first rays fractured the night sky, they would infiltrate the wasp nest, an unseen specter of vengeance beneath the moonlit canopy. Under the cover of a moonless night, Brisa and her Sting Ops squad swept silently through the oak's hollow entrance, guided by the faint, bitter tang of wasp musk that drifted on the still air. The forest floor was carpeted in fallen leaves and mushroom clusters, but in the gloom, the bees flew unerringly toward the enemy lair. A gnarled, rotting log sprawled across the creek bank, its bark chewed away in places to reveal the pale honeycomb of a wasp colony within. Brisa alighted on the log's surface first, tarsi flicking to test for sentry patrols. She signaled the others with a soft buzz click, and the squad fanned out in a perfect formation overhead. 4 veteran foragers in a line, 4 soldier bees doubling back in tight circles. At the center of their formation, Thorn and 2 other stingers carried small parcels of crushed pollen, dusted with a rare paralytic agent harvested from night-blooming flowers deep in Maribel's territory. With synchronized precision, the foragers dove toward the rotting wood, dropping handfuls of coated pollen into the cluster of entrance holes. The parasitic pollen sparkled like golden confetti against the dark wood grain. Immediately, wasp guards, sizable hornets with barbed stingers, darted from the log in confusion, their antennae twitching madly as they inhaled the toxic grains. Wings beat frantically, but soon the paralytic agent took hold. One by one, the wasps faltered, claws slipping on the bark, mandibles clamped in spasm. Seizing the moment, Thorn plunged his stinger into the largest wasp head-on, unleashing a dose of potent bee venom that immobilized it instantly. Its armored shell offered no defense against the specialized toxin. Around him, the other soldier bees darted among the staggering wasps, delivering targeted stings to joint membranes and wing bases. Within seconds, the invaders fell into a heap of twitching bodies at the log's base, unable to mount any coherent defense. Meanwhile, Brisa and the remaining foragers slipped inside the hollow-torched cavity. They navigated the winding chambers of chewed wood and wax, following the faintest vibrations that led them deeper toward the stolen brood cells. Overhead, the soldier team maintained a watchful ring, fending off the last disoriented wasps that staggered from the log's exit holes. As Brisa located the pilfered larvae, tiny glistening grubs bundled in silken cocoons, she tapped out the hive's coded rescue-ready signal, 3 rapid buzz clicks. Instantly, the soldier bees above dispersed the paralytic pollen residue with sweeping wing beats, ensuring no lingering toxin contaminated Maribel's future brood. One by one, the foragers used delicate mandible-crafted comb frames to transfer each larva into secure pouches of court jelly carried beneath their abdomens. By the time the first silver hint of dawn touched the log's weathered rings, the StingOps team had flown from the wasp lair, leaving behind only a few stunned survivors and the scattered gleam of spent pollen. The stolen brood nestled safely under their abdomens, each life intact and ready for return. As they wheeled toward home, Brisa's heart thrummed with triumph. Maribel's secret agents had struck swiftly and vanished without a trace, turning the thieves' lair into a silent tomb and retrieving the hive's future in a single decisive ambush. Under the cool veil of pre-dawn mist, Queen Maribel's StingOps squad, wings heavy with the weight of the rescued brood, slipped through the hollow oak's entrance to return the stolen larvae to the heart of the hive. The hollow log that had sheltered the wasp lair loomed behind them like a fallen monument, its entrance holes silent and empty. Brisa led the formation, her antennae pulsing with the queen's pheromone guidance, as the foragers navigated the twisted wood chambers by memory and instinct. Inside the oak's vast interior, the hive's tunnels spread outward in concentric rings of honeycomb, each cell meticulously labeled by worker bees. Nurse guards flitted through the corridors, sticky sacks of royal jelly clutched in their mandibles, ready to nurse the returning brood. At the center of the labyrinth lay the brood chamber, a domed vault of creamy wax, its walls lined with golden larvae awaiting care. Brisa hovered at the chamber's mouth and signaled the others with a gentle buzz click. Immediately, the soldier bees formed a protective ring around the entrance, antennae tuned for any wasp stragglers. Within moments, the nurse guards recognized the StingOps pheromonal signature and parted to reveal the brood cells vandalized during the night's raid. Their exposed walls were smeared with propolis sealant to protect the compromised comb. One by one, the foragers approached the sealed cells, each still containing a single larva in its royal cocoon. Using tiny mandibles sharpened by years of comb sculpting, they scraped away the fresh propolis seal in precise spirals, revealing the trembling brood within. The nurse bees pressed close, offering sips of rejuvenating royal jelly that sparkled with morning dew. Each larva unfurled its curled body, sensing the safe warmth of its true home. As the final cell opened, Queen Maribel herself appeared in the chamber's entrance, her presence parting the crowd like a living tide. She extended her gracious antennae toward the returning brood, emitting a low, celebratory hum that resonated through every comb chamber. The nurse bees buzzed in harmony, welcoming the reclaimed offspring with gentle strokes of their forelegs. Behind them, the soldier bees turned outward, vanquished wasp scouts nowhere to be seen, a testament to the StingOps' flawless execution. Maribel nodded in approval, then pressed a delicate tarsal pad to each soldier's thorax in turn, infusing them with renewed royal pheromones that would carry the story of their valor throughout the colony. To seal the ritual of restoration, the queen signaled for the grand propolis pour. Hundreds of workers formed a living wave, carrying glistening droplets of golden propolis in their pollen baskets. They traced intricate patterns around each newly restored cell, reinforcing the comb with nature's toughest sealant. As the propolis set, the hive's architects sculpted ornate ridges and filigrees, symbols of unity and repair. When the last drop of propolis hardened, Queen Maribel climbed to the chamber's highest comb and trumpeted her victory in a vibrant series of buzzes. The sound rippled outward, stirring the hive into jubilant motion. Foragers prepared fresh flights of pollen collection, soldiers resumed their proud patrol, and nurse bees cradled the rescued brood to perfect health. Maribel surveyed her realm, every cell humming with revived purpose. The comb chambers gleamed under filtered sunlight, and the air buzzed with the life that had been nearly lost. In that triumphant dawn, it was clear. The hive stood stronger for having faced betrayal, for its secret agent's daring rescue had not only returned its future, but reaffirmed the bonds that held them all together. The comeback coup would be sung in the colony's dances for generations, an ode to the Queen's wisdom and the stingop's unbreakable devotion. As the first rays of dawn filtered through the oak's lofty hollow, Queen Maribel's hive pulsed with renewed life. The grand brood chamber, once scarred by the wasp's midnight raid, now gleamed in shades of amber and ivory, each wax cell meticulously repaired and polished by the hive's artisans. A gentle, jubilant hum filled the air, the symphony of thousands of wings beating in unison, a celebratory anthem to triumph over betrayal. At the heart of this living concert, Queen Maribel emerged from her royal comb dais, her iridescent thorax catching the morning light, and pressed her antennae to the polished comb with regal deliberation. Around her, nurse bees clustered in tight circles, their mandibles ready to dispense the richest royal jelly to the newly rescued larvae, now nestled in pristine cells at the chamber's center. Maribel's low, rhythmic buzz invited every bee in the hive to partake in the morning's grand ritual. First came the nectar procession. Forager bees streamed in from the orchard beyond, their pollen baskets brimming with the season's sweetest flows: clover, apple blossom, and goldenrod. Each returning bee executed a precise trophallaxis dance, passing tiny droplets of nectar from mouth to mouth in a chain that wound through the hive's galleries. As the nectar circulated, it carried the queen's triumphant pheromones, hints of court jelly enriched with empowerment, infusing every worker with renewed vigor. The air shimmered with warmth and sweetness, and even the youngest house bees lifted their wings in an instinctive waggle step of joy. Next, Maribel signaled the honeycomb parade. Soldier bees, newly anointed by the Queen's tactile blessing in Chapter 4, formed a protective flank on either side of the brood chamber's central aisle. They marched in synchronized pulses, mandibles clicking in time with the Queen's hum. Immediately behind them, a column of guard bees bore decorative strands of propolis, golden beads of resin harvested from sacred poplar buds, draped like ceremonial garlands. These propolis chains glinted in the filtered sunlight as the column wound its way through the hive, pausing at each repaired brood cell so that young nurses could touch the resin with reverence and recall the stingop's daring rescue. At the aisle's end, nurse bees unfurled a living royal jelly fountain, an elevated comb cup into which they ladled spoonfuls of creamy white jelly. In a time-honored act of renewal, they each dipped a foreleg into the fountain, then touched it to the flanks of the recovered brood, bestowing the nourishment that would ensure their vigorous development into future workers. The larvae trembled and glowed beneath the jelly's life-giving sheen, their tiny bodies unfurling in response to the Queen's providence. Finally, Queen Maribel ascended the pedestal of propagation, a spiral turret of comb built for this singular ceremony. From her lofty vantage, she raised her wings in an expansive arc and let forth a clarion trumpet buzz so resonant it vibrated through every cell and corridor. In that moment, every bee ceased its task and spread its wings to catch the Queen's signal. The hive's future was secure. Heralded by this triumphant call, the hive burst into its final celebration, the Garden of Wings. Bees poured into the auditorium of the upper gallery, where honey-drenched floor combs provided an open space for ecstatic dancing. Foragers performed their signature figure-8 waggle dances, sharing news of rich foraging grounds. Guard bees engaged in ritualized wing-flick parades, reaffirming their oath to defend the hive. Nurse bees wove through the throng, offering droplets of heart-sweet honey to any who paused in their dances. All around, the golden comb glowed like a cathedral of sunlight, each flicker of a wing creating living mosaics of shadow and shimmer. At last, as shafts of morning light pierced the oak's knotholes, Queen Maribel surveyed her thriving realm, every chamber alive with purpose, every bee united in harmony. With a final, reverent brush of her antennae against the central comb, she imparted a single thought to her subjects. Together, we endure. And in that hush following her whisper buzz, the hive exhaled in collective contentment. Its sweet victory a testament to the courage of one queen and the daring of her secret agents, whose sting-ops had ensured that life, and the promise of future generations, would flourish beneath the ancient oak's protective boughs.